Contentment is falling in love with your life. This niyama asks us to cultivate a life full of wonder, curiosity, and a deep love for everything that is. Welcome to this series on the niyamas. Niyama is Sanskrit for rules, guidelines, or observances. Niyamas appear in Hindu and Buddhist texts, and they are best known as the second limb of the 8 limbs of yoga, as described in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. In Indian traditions, particularly yoga, niyamas and their complement yamas are recommended activities and habits for healthy living, spiritual enlightenment, and a liberated state of existence. By observing the yamas, we can create space in our life for more beauty and love. As we do, we remove the blocks that keep our hearts from being wide open and expansive. The yamas ask of us to be our best self, and thereby allow us to take a deeper in-breath and a longer exhalation, trusting in our decision to align with our true nature. It is the freedom that we cultivate from embodying the yamas that allows us to go deeper into the second stage of our 8-limbed path, the niyamas. These are purity, contentment, self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. These 5 niyamas are practiced to be nurtured and cultivated. They will remain with us throughout our lives, taking us even deeper into the subtle realms of our being, moving us closer to the stillness inside. The niyamas, as spiritual and practical teachings, lead us beyond the body and our activity and asanas, and our mind in meditation. Without them, samadhi, a state of joyful calm or even of rapture and beatitude in which one maintains full mental alertness and acuity, would be an impossible dream. In this episode, I cite and also quote directly from Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice. Her wise words guide us into the practical and the spiritual as we explore the significance of the focus of this episode and the niyama Santosha, contentment. As we begin, it's important to remember that there is not a right or wrong way to explore your path. Like the yamas, the Sanskrit word for restraints, the niyamas point us in a direction of something better than we are now aware of. Whereas the yamas focus our attention on our relationship with the world and a social focus, the niyamas encourage our relationship with ourselves and an inward dwelling focus. In each episode of the Wisdom Podcast, I share both spiritual and practical wisdom, together with the insights, offerings, and truth that have helped others live their greatness, conquer their fears, heal from the experiences of their past, be resilient, live empowered and free, and of course, of their authentic happiness. You may hear your own story in some of the stories of my clients who have healed themselves, become in control of their life, and reclaimed their authentic power. Seeking a deeper understanding and meaning of life awakens us to discover our purpose and to witness infinite beauty and joy that is so abundant. Each episode is meant to offer something beautifully relevant and timely for you. Let the sacred path that you are on be one that you choose deliberately, based on the inspired wisdom of your inner truth. And as you live a beautiful and love-filled life. Welcome to this episode and the second in a series of 5. The focus is on the niyama Santosha, or contentment, as well as delight, happiness, joy. Santosha invites us into contentment by taking refuge in a calm center, opening our hearts in gratitude for what we do have, and practicing the paradox of not seeking as not needing to perpetually be seeking and grasping whilst missing out on what is right in front of us. That is often pure perfection. Here's an example. I can get way ahead of myself when I'm traveling, and in my excitement of everything that I want to see and do and take in and experience, I can become so focused on the planning involved into the next day and the next that I become distracted from the full experience and enjoyment of what is right in front of me. While there is always a place and a need to look forward and plan the future, it is equally important to measure this with the balance of enjoying what is right here and now and directly in front of us. This is how we cultivate contentment for what is. Along with getting ready for the next thing we seek, we tend to look at people's lives and then decide what is missing from our own, rather than appreciate what we have. When we compare ourselves to others and envy them, we move ourselves into a state of lack and disappointment. This moves us further away from feeling contentment, complete, and whole. If we expect the world to meet our needs, we look outside of ourselves to find sustenance, comfort, and happiness. We expect others, material things, and having what others have to fulfill us. And when it doesn't, we counter that with excuses and disappointment and further longing and grasping at something else, something different. Our feeling of contentment becomes dependent upon external sources, and therefore contentment remains beyond our control. As long as you look outside of yourself for your happiness and life fulfillment, you will never feel the peace of true contentment. Contentment arises from an experience of acceptance, of life, of ourselves, and of whatever life is offering to us in the present. If you live the practice of Santosha, life would instantly be happier, easier, better, and with far more freedom to enjoy what is. When we are content, we are happy. Thus, and here is the practice of this niyama, through the power of contentment, happiness becomes our choice. In life, if we seek only our preferences and what gives us pleasure, and avoid what we are uncomfortable with and what we hold anxiety and fear towards, this becomes an exhausting pursuit and use of our energy. Yogis tell us that all things are, in fact, neutral. It is the personal labeling that we attach to something that determines if it is desirable or unwanted. True freedom and contentment begin to find their way to us when we can see things as they are, neutral, and not spend our energy manipulating things according to our preferences. This also frees us to live moment by moment. part of the anguish and suffering we experience occurs each time that we give the power of how we feel away to someone or to a situation or something that did not occur exactly as we had wanted. Do you ever feel upset, hurt, left out, insulted, not appreciated, or taken for granted? When we give away our emotional well-being to what others say or do, or not say or not do, we allow our contentment to be determined by others. And as a result, we feel helpless in our desire to be happy. Your emotional disturbances, or what I call your suffering, is what keeps you out of contentment. The secret is to notice when you are moving out of the balance of neutrality and contentment and call yourself back. One of the easiest and most direct paths to contentment and happiness is gratitude, of course, right? To practice gratitude again and again is what keeps us focused on the value of all that we have. Gratitude centers us in joy and appreciation for our own life and in the knowledge of all that we seek to co-create. The Buddhists speak of developing an abiding calm, a centeredness that is unshakable, like a tree so rooted in the earth that great winds and storms cannot topple it. This image can present another example of contentment. It means not riding the waves of the ups and downs of life. It means that we not only agree to what is in the moment, but we actually welcome it. It means that in all of the noise and demands of modern life, we continue in the abiding, calm center. This is the mastery of life that contentment invites us into. The practice of gratitude and non-seeking can definitely help us remain rooted in Santosha. And finally, a paradox to Santosha: the more we seek it or need it to look a certain way, the more it eludes us. This is because we will continue to face illusions of contentment. You may have an image in your mind that you will always be calm and centered and chill, that life will always show up as perfect for you. This image keeps you from the contentment you seek. It's easy to be content when you feel great and things are going well and you like and love yourself. But what about the chaos and interruptions if you feel bored or depressed or angry or something's not going your way? Then what? Discontentment is the illusion that there can be something else in the moment. In fact, there isn't, and there can't be. The moment is complete. That means if you are bored or sad, you will only be discontented if you are not content to be bored or sad. Building contentment with boredom, sadness, impatience, depression, disappointment, loneliness, and loss builds your ability to be that beautiful, deeply rooted tree that great winds cannot topple. Being content with your discontentment is itself a path to the calm depths within. And as a side note, discontentment never lasts. It is fluid. The paradox of not seeking contentment, rather I call it being content, allows you to appreciate what you have. Swami Rama stated it this way: contentment is falling in love with your life. In Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and the Niyamas, She also references the classic novel The Wizard of Oz and the main character's sojourn that spans the totality of the book, only to discover that she, Dorothy, had already had contentment in her life. She did not need to seek it. Santosha, or contentment, is the true understanding that there is nothing more that can or does exist than this moment. When we are purely in the moment is complete. There is no longing for something different or more. When we do something in the moment to fulfill an expectation for another moment, for instance, exercising to get our bodies to look a certain way rather than for the pure joy of the exercise and movement itself, we will miss contentment. When action is complete in the moment and the process is enjoyed for the pure joy of the process, action becomes being, and being becomes contentment. When you learn and practice that there is nothing missing, that life is complete the way it reveals itself in each moment, you will live in the joy of contentment. If you enjoyed this episode, and if you haven't yet already, please have a look at the first niyama in this series, Sosha, or purification. And also, I invite you to check out my 5-part series on the yamas. Yamas are moral disciplines that transcend all world religions, as guiding us to live of our light and our highest self. I will leave links for each of these episodes in the description. And finally, if you feel encouraged and inspired to dive into this sacred practice with me, consider these best practices as guidance as you live in full contentment of your life. First, how do you feel present moment contentment when you are disappointed or striving for change and improvement? The answer lies in the question. You return to the present moment in stillness, in quiet if needed, and in reflection of what is. This is how you cultivate contentment. It exists for you in the present. Keep in mind the premise that whatever you have in the present moment is enough. Once you do this, happiness will find an enduring place in your life. Whatever aspirations you have for the future will simply add to your joy. Second, notice when you find yourself distracted from contentment in the here and now, or as you look for contentment from something outside of yourself. Can you feel appreciation for what is right here, right now, and in front of you? Third, practice gratitude and non-seeking. Be content with each moment as it is. Ponder these words from Meister Eckhart, the German theologian. If the only prayer you say in your entire life is thank you, that would suffice. And number 4, trace your unhappiness and suffering right back to yourself. You can choose to stay in the emotional disturbance or return to the calm center of contentment. You can also be present and content with your emotions as they are and observe how they ebb and flow quite naturally. I thank you so much for joining me in this episode and for the beautiful practice of Santosha, contentment. Please join me in the next episode, the 3rd in a series of 5, as we dive into tapas, or self-discipline. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening. This is Dorothy, sending you great love. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode of the Wisdom Podcast. To hear more, please check out the other episodes right here. And I'd love for you to subscribe and share your feedback on this or any episode with me. And then join me at dorothyratusny.com, where you'll find the wisdom blog, the inspiration for this podcast, the latest online courses that I teach, my YouTube videos, and the Wisdom Archives, which are an extensive library of guided meditations, mindfulness musings, spiritual teachings, and best therapeutic practices for your whole being, and to nourish and heal your life, plus many other special offerings of love. Please also visit me on social media and say hello. Allow yourself to go within, to access your inner wisdom, and to live this. Awaken your authentic power, live your truth, and be love. Thank you. This is Dorothy.